FightHype here with former unified champion Keith Thurman. I wanted to make sure I stressed that you were unified at one point. I think a lot of people forget that because you kind of were like one of the first ones to be unified after the former era of Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao. Isn't that right?
Yeah, I was, you know, the way it ended up going down when Floyd was leaving the game, I think like on the books, like on some legitimate scale, I might have been ranked the number one, you know, post Floyd. When Floyd first left, I think I was the one to hold the number one position by unifying. And then with the injury, I vacated the title. And then Spence came in and grabbed the title from Kell Brook. And then, then it was like a toss up who's really won. Is it Spence? Is it Thurman? This and that. And then Bud got in the mix. And then, yeah, man, it's been I've been at the top for a long time, man. So a lot of people forget. But that's how boxers are. You're only as good as your last fight. But luckily we got back in action this year, man, after 3 years. Ain't nobody in the States. I had to go out to Australia to get the check. But it was a lot of fun, and I'm happy to be back, and I'm looking forward to stepping in the ring another time before this year ends.
Obviously, speaking of that last fight, congratulations, of course, on the win. But how important was that fight for you? I know a lot of people, they'll see the name, they might not recognize Brock Jarvis. But like you mentioned, it had been 3 years since you had fought because of injuries and stuff like that. So just like going into that fight, and coming out of it, how important was it for you just to gauge, where you were at as far as your skills and as far as the injuries are concerned?
Yeah, I mean, the importance of that fight for me, if you're asking me personally, it's the fight doesn't have importance. What's important is we get the Thurman show back going. All right.
Yes,
Because a
sir.
lot of them forgot what the Thurman show was even felt like. You know, they don't even remember what it felt like.
Mm-hmm.
They calling your man one time, once upon a time. I'm a mystical creature out here, boy. It's like I got a unicorn or something, man. You know what I'm saying?
Got the horn
So
growing out.
I got the, I'm like Pegasus out here, boy. They ain't never seen nothing like this. So uh I just needed to be back in action for me, for the sport. And as that reminder, what does Keith Thurman bring to the boxing game? At 147, where I did most of my career, now competing at 154. And I'd like to ask you a question, man. When you first heard about the fight, what were your thoughts?
I was excited that Keith Thurman was back. I honestly really didn't even care who you were fighting. I was just glad to hear that you were back because you're gifted with the mouth. You know how to like talk that trash. You know how to hype the fight up. You know how to promote the fight. So I already knew what we were about to get with the Keith Thurman show. So me personally, I was excited. Like I said, I really didn't care who the opponent was.
See, so you knew what was gonna happen when they get me back. They put the mic back in my face when there's a build up to a fight and a contract, right? There's
Absolutely.
a lot of people though who ended up, they're like, who cares about it? What's this fight? But the funny thing is about those people is once I landed in Australia, once I started running my mouth, once what was that? I was in his chest. I know I was in his
Yep.
I'm in his chest. Huh?
Yep.
Speak up. Use your chest, boy.
Mm-hmm.
I was doing everything. I sized them up from the day I touched land. I promise you, And I just love the fact that a lot of people who were not fully interested, once the show began, they started to realize, oh snaps, Thurman's entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
This fight that I didn't like on paper is actually starting to create hype, you know? And it was just fun to put out that reminder for people that that's the type of fighter Keith Thurman is. You can take a fight that nobody's interested in, and I'm going to make you interested. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to make you want to watch it. Honestly, that's my favorite thing about boxing is bringing people into the sport, you know? New heads, old heads, I think the best comment a fighter can get is "You're my favorite fighter." You know, but there's another comment that's actually kind of my favorite comment. And it says, "I started watching boxing again
Mm,
because of you."
wow.
When I hear that, that one oversees, "You're my favorite fighter."
Mm,
The fact that somebody had a love for boxing, then somebody put them on to a specific athlete, and then they can rekindle that fire, rekindle that love and that passion that they have to be a spectator of the beautiful sport of boxing, man. So yeah, being in Australia was fun, showcase my skills and talent. I was really there to help promote, get closer to Tim Zoo because we were supposed to fight before my injury, and I was just trying to make good fights happen. I still think that a Thurman Zoo fight is a good fight. He's now fighting Fundora in their rematch. He's trying to get back to championship status, which I understand belt chasing and things of that nature. It'd be nice for me to also get back into that world championship status. So you can't hate the players, you can't hate the game. When you got love for it, you're gonna participate. And I patiently waited a lot, and we'll see what happens before the year's over. We got some good fights coming up this month. If you out in Vegas, I'll be out in Vegas. I'll be part of the telecast for the Pacquiao and Mario Barrios fight.
Wow. Yeah, that makes sense since obviously you've been in with both. I'm gonna ask you about that and the Tim Zoo situation in just a minute, but I'm curious because you mentioned the Thurman show. Just watching that fight, I do feel like we got to see everything there is when it comes to the Thurman show, right? Like the trash talk, the promotion of the event, hyping people up, and even the performance inside the ring. Like I feel like just in that one fight, if someone was going to say, what's Keith Thurman about, I would say go watch that fight because you saw a little bit of everything. Do you think that's missing in boxing today? The art of promoting the fight, the art of hyping up the fight. I know a lot of times we see guys, they go to the press conference, they'll give a push or a shove at the face off, but just leading up to the fight, there isn't a lot of promotion for it from the fighters themselves. And, I get it because you guys are fighters and you just want to do your job. But at the same time, I feel like that art of promotion is part of the job too. So do you feel like that's kind of missing in today's fights?
That's very interesting that you bring up that topic, man, because like a lot of people, just like some casual fans, different people, they'll approach me with from a similar perspective. And the way I look at it, man, it's interesting because when people used to ask me, what do you do for a living? I used to bluntly just tell them I punch people in the face, you know. Like you said, we fighters, man. We punch
Right.
people in the face.
Mm-hmm.
So when you identify that as your job description, then it has nothing to do with how well I talk, how well I give interviews, how much insight I give you into my tactics before the fight, you know? And to me, you just got to look at boxing historically. And when you look at boxing historically, it's always actually been like this. You can't predict who is going to have talent and personality, or there might be a high personality but mid-grade talent. You can't predict um how this comes out in the sport of boxing. Not everybody can be a Muhammad Ali, and not everybody can be a Mike Tyson, but both are entertaining, and one talked better than the other. So that's just the way I see it. I think in today's generation it will benefit all the athletes in the sport if they were to integrate and get away from that little bit of like timidness and shyness, and like, look, man, people are already watching you. People are already gonna have something to say about you. You got nothing to say, they still got something to say about you. You got something to say, they're gonna have something to say about you. So you can't run, you can't hide from this internet, interaction and the comment section. You can't run and hide from that, man. All you can do is be you and represent you. So these fighters just need to know, like, what does it mean to represent myself? And as confident as you are in a matchup, and wherever your boxing IQ is, if you have some information that you can share with the people, man, I'm raising kids now, baby. We know sharing is caring. So when Keith Thurman talks, man, I give it to you like from my perspective of a boxing athlete, somebody who's been committed to the game since he was 7 years old. So I know the ins and outs from the amateurs to the pros to the pay-per-view, you know and so I got no problem just talking about what I know a lot about boxing. I got no problem talking boxing, and I don't know what holds back other fighters and their personalities and their camps. But considering Jake Paul's making more money than almost everybody out here, you know what I'm saying? And what Ryan Garcia's done with his career, I think when he turned pro, he almost had like 1 million followers out of high school with that pretty boy face and that six pack of his. You know what I'm saying? So um, he used to do a lot of bag drills. He used to do a lot of pretty things, and he put out a lot of content. Once again, personalities. It's not for everybody. But there's a whole new opportunity that shows if what's that kid my daughter loves this boy, man, my little girl. I show speed, right?
Oh
I
yeah, yeah.
Mr. Speed, I speed. Shout out
Yes.
speed. I shout out speed. All right, my daughter loves you, mate. And you know if he really wanted to get in there and scrap, he gonna get paid, because of his recognition. So it just shows you boxing has always been an entertainment sport. It's not just a physical sport. It's about entertainment. So when you look at certain fighters who have skills, but they're not at the they're not the top of the mountain when it comes to the paydays, right? And this has happened throughout the sport of boxing on many levels, you know. Um, who was that? Who was that one good Cuban? Dang, he was like a lightweight Cuban fighter, I think.
Gamboa.
No, not Gamboa. Gamboa, I do remember Gamboa. It was the one Inoue beat. He was like he almost didn't even look Cuban. He almost looked like something else. But um he was a decent puncher and stuff. He had an interesting style. But there's just been throughout history, man, just a lot of super talents, but they're just not bringing in the crowds. There's real boxing heads love them and love watching them, but they're not really bringing in the masses. And that's what I love to try to do. I love to entertain the boxing fans, but I love to bring non fans into the sport any way that I can. If it means by being sentimental, sharing my family story, my backstory, you know what I'm saying? And just be like, look, man, he's a family man, he's a nice guy, and I support him. I'm in his corner. So it doesn't really matter how you pull the people in. Adrian Broner back in the day, right? Big trash talker, fancy, all the all the jewelry, you know what I mean? If you got all if that's your way to rock it at the top, Floyd Mayweather, very similar, flashy lifestyle. If getting people to come to you by looking at that lifestyle and admiring that lifestyle, knowing that you work hard to attain those things, and admiring your hustle and your grind and a little bit of your street and your trash talk, then run it. But if you're not a trash talker, you can still be humble and still try to grab attention. It just takes a little bit of effort. And my biggest thing that I've used throughout my career is honesty and transparency. If I'm hurt, I'm hurt. If I'm injured, I'm injured. If I've been through this, I've been through that. It is what it is. But you see, I'm still here grinding, and I'm still waiting for that next contract ready to sign. And that's what boxing's all about.
Is that something that can be taught though? Like if there was a school of Thurman, could you sit down and teach fighters, okay, this is how you need to put yourself out there and promote your fight? Or is it just something that either you got it or you don't? Because I feel like it's really easy for you, and it's always been easy for you.
It's like what I was saying, man. You can't. you can't train. Um, you can train, but either you really have knockout power or you don't, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Either you really have lightning speed or you don't. So there's certain aspects that you can train to increase your power a little bit. Maybe this guy's he's so fast, boop boop boop, boop boop boop, but he's throwing with his arm all the time. He's throwing with his arm all the time, but he's landing good shots, clean shots, bing bing boom. And it's like, man, he can land clean shots, but he's not dropping guys. So if the coach wanted to say, hey man, look, when you know this guy's easy to hit, next time when you set it up, you just need to put the hip into. You need to bop. You need to throw the, you know, throw your waist, put your core, put all your weight into the punch. Bop, bop, bop. You got your speed, and then every once in a while, boom, drop that heavy hitter on him, and maybe he might not be like a superior knockout guy, but he might go from landing clean shots to occasionally getting some drops in, boom, digging with the body, hurting people to the body, this and that, which can lead into TKO situations, because there's no standing 8 counts, blah, blah, blah. You put hands on them, you hurt them, boom, boom, boom. You put another flurry on them, pop them up a few more. The ref is concerned. He comes in, he stops the fight. So speed too. You can do some strength training, some band work, different things, hit certain muscle groups and open things up flexibility wise, and boom, 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 boom. Try to get your fighter to be a little bit faster. Teach him how to relax his arms and be loose up top and boom, 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 and try to be a little faster. So there's always technique that can be trained. But like we were saying with Muhammad Ali, Prince Nassim, you know what I'm saying? There are personalities that one don't need training, and two, you can't really train people to be like that. So what you can train fighters to do though, and it's interesting you're bringing this up because I have this weird inclination of a thought to almost do a teaching class in my retirement day and age for the
Should.
new generation. Like
You
there's
should.
already a new generation coming, but I'm
Mhm.
talking about when I'm actually out, and whoever that generation is of some young bloods that might be on their way up that we still ain't even heard of. If I can get into their camps, if I can be put on as like a little mentor, advisor, and do these little workshops. And trainers are like, look, we got a superstar and we want to maximize our potential of this young kid and his talent. He's going to want to be able to represent himself and speak. So I do believe that you can train it to a degree because there might just be some stuff inside the kid. He wasn't that vocal. I did I did something very young in my life. I did modeling classes. I never fully pursued it, right? I never fully graduated or anything because my mom told me how much money it cost and boxing was a lot cheaper. I said, we don't need to go back to that bougie class. You know what I'm saying? And I didn't know what I was throwing away, but I'm lucky that I took that first course because at the end of that first course, I was like 10 years old, but I memorized a 30-second commercial. I mean, this is a sheet, bro. I'm 10 years old and I got like the whole front and maybe a little bit in the back, another paragraph or two, a whole sheet of walking into a grocery store, grabbing a certain cereal, blah, blah, blah. But I memorized it. And it made me comfortable in front of cameras. It made me comfortable as a speaker. And then obviously, 10 years later, I was able to use that more in what I'm doing with boxing, speaking with people, and people always wonder what made Thurman such a good speaker. But it's small things, almost like a drama class or like a little improv. It's not like sometimes they say like, "Are you like acting?" Like I'm not really acting, but I be clowning, and some people be calling me out like Thurman's a clown, he be this and that, you know what I'm saying? Can I do my job?
Right.
Can I have fun?
Right.
I'm working.
Hmm.
Can I say what I want to say? This is the 4th of July, baby. This is America, baby. I got
Facts.
freedom of speech. Let me talk. Let me talk
Facts.
my talk. You know what I'm saying?
Talk it.
You know,
Talk
I
it.
can't I can't help it that Brock Jarvis looked like a beach boy. You know, he I couldn't help it that he looked like he be on a magazine of Abercrombie and Finch. You know what I'm saying? I couldn't help it. He a swimsuit model or something. Let me just talk, man. You
Facts.
know,
Yeah.
I'm sitting down. I see this thick old neck. He used to be a lighter weight. Where you got that pork neck from, man? You know, I saw in the comments say they was. I don't know what I was going. I was all over pork neck, chicken wing. My man, look, hey, I be in camp, baby. Obviously, I was hungry, boy. You know what I'm saying? I'm looking
Yeah.
at pork neck, pork shoulder, fucking chicken wings. You know what I'm saying? I'm hungry, boy. That's what Thurman doing. Thurman, Thurman throwing out dishes in his talks. You know what I'm saying? So, man, we had a lot of fun, man. And then even my boy Texas, man, that was some real talk, man. Y'all don't understand. My boy Texas, he got this twang. He had a guitar. He put in a whole little song about knocking Brock Jarvis out, man. Y'all don't even understand. So, like, I just be throwing it out there, man. But I just be trying to have fun. I like to enjoy myself. You know, when I was fighting Tim Zoo, it came up real quick. Flat-footed Zoo, what you gonna do? I didn't know there was Mexicans in Australia,
Mm.
you know? And I'm just talking about the style. Triple G said, I have Mexican style, you know? So anybody who's real boxing, they know I'm not offending Mexican tradition. They know we're pointing out Mexican style, the Cuban styles, you know? The American style, the athletic style, or slick Pernell Whitaker styles, and we use references like that. So if somebody gets a little hurt and offended, it's only from their lack of understanding, and I'll let them stay offended. I'm not worried about it. We keep it moving. So you can't worry about what people say, but just say what you want to say. Say what you got to say to build up a fight, man, and to add some entertainment.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt, no doubt. Man, that's even when you're not fighting, you're still riffing and clowning, man. That's good stuff. Um, Take me back to that Jarvis fight, not the actual fight, but just afterwards, after the fight was over. How did the injuries feel? Well, I mean, they weren't injuries anymore. You've been surgically repaired now, but how did you feel after the fight? Were you happy with how everything held up, and are you injury free now moving forward?
Yeah, 3 rounds, just wanted to get a few rounds out of it. I wasn't even looking for the knockout in the third. I would have gone round 4, round 5. I wanted to.
You
I
should
have a
have helped him
little.
back up.
I have a little bit of an issue, and you can see it. You can see it in the Thurman Mario Barrios fight where I rocked him, and I just kind of like I let him live, bro. I'm a weird kind of shark. I play with my food, you know. I play with my food because I worked so hard in training camp, right, in preparation for the fight, and I know that my opponent is supposed to do the same. So I like to test fighters, and I get in this like tug of war. It's like, boom, I got you. But let's not just make that what the fight's about. Show me something, kid. What do you got? What did you practice on? What did they teach you out there, like in Australia? What did they teach you in the ring? And I almost give fighters an opportunity to show me how good they are, right? But that's just because of how much confidence I have in myself. I want fighters to bring their best to me so I can outbest their best, right? I'm telling you, I'm screwed up, man. I got a little loose screw up in here. But that's what gets me going. In round one, I caught him, and I could tell he didn't like it, and I'm pressing him, but I'm like, no, I'm like, I'm not. I didn't come over here to make just boom, boom, make the money and go home. Let's fight, man. And the real thing about round one was when we did the face off, he was still running his mouth. And the weirdest thing is whenever he said something, he just said something that like made sense. Like his trash talking made sense. He's like, we're gonna see now who really wants it. Like, Brock, you mean like now? Like right now? Like when we're in the ring? The moment I freaking trained for? Now we're gonna see who really wants it? Like, yeah, kid, it's fight night, kid. You know?
Uh,
That's why people want like, oh, Brock's talking now, Thurman's mouth shut. Boy, I'm locked in, pimp. I'm locked in. This
hmm
is fight night. I
hmm
don't care what you gotta say. Say it with these. Today's the day. You want to punch a hole in Keith Thurman's face? Today is the day. You know what I'm saying? The time is now.
Don't
You
need to
know,
talk now.
and And look, coach, me and coach, we had a plan. Work the jab, use your lateral movement. He is not going to be able to do nothing to it. Period. We knew that going into the fight. He's never had a world-class boxer, two-time world champion, put that footwork in front of him, pick their shots, blah, blah, blah. But in round one, I was like, this boy is mad. He's actually mad. And because of that, I need to let him get off. I'm gonna let him tee off. Swing, batter, swing, batter. So once he kind of got his legs back under him after he got a little shook, and then he got in a situation where it was his turn. All you got to do is look what I did. I stood right there. I didn't go nowhere. And the crowd and the commentators are going crazy. He throws 15 punches, lands 2. You know what I'm saying? It's like you can just watch it and replay. He's like all arm, this part of the arm, this, all over the place. Nothing's really getting through. A few little uppercuts kind of got through, but they broke through the guard, so they're not clean. They're not clean shots. They broke through the guard, and I took a little short one. Boom, and I'm on the ropes. This, that. Keep working. Let him do his thing. Get out. And now, see, this is the beauty of being Keith Thurman. Now the crowd is standing up. You know what I'm saying? They're happy to see a two-time world champion in Australia, Sydney, but they're also happy to see their hometown boy do good, you know? So everyone's anticipations is now at a high because they got action in round one. How many people are out here boxing and give you no action in round one?
Facts. Facts. The feel out round.
No action.
Facts.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
That's just a little difference between me and all these new school kids. New school, and I'm not down talking it. Let me put that out there clearly. It's a phenomenal strategy when you're in a 12-round fight to chugga before you choo, you know what I'm saying? And work that momentum up. It's a beautiful strategy. And anybody who is a Fight Night fan, they also know it's a Fight Night strategy. Fight Night, you hit all those buttons. You go for those knockouts. Your boy don't got no stamina later on. He get hit with a 1-2. All of a sudden, you dazed. You like, bro, what's wrong? I ain't do nothing. What's wrong? I'm good. You know, your character ain't good, right?
Because of that, all the way down.
Because of that energy bar, right? So it's like, so this is a real tactic. But for me, I'm about action, and I love to get a piece of the action from the start of Bell Run 1. You can see it in the Thurman Sean Porter fight, Thurman Garcia fight. You can see it in a lot of my fights. I try to make a statement in round 1, man. So overall, it was great being out there. Injuries felt good. Coming home, something was messed up, but it's weird. It's like the air pressure of flying. Mm-hmm. And then some storms and different things. And like, they say, oh, my knee aches. It's about to rain. Like you hear all these weird little things. But when you have surgeries and then something about atmospheric pressure, it will kind of mess it up. When I was recovering here in Florida, when November hit, we had a lot of hurricanes. And I thought my injury was getting better, and it was achy. I was like, yo, what's happening? And then in December, all the hurricanes were gone. And then my pain was gone. And then I was like, yo, you are recovering. You are doing good. But that month, it wasn't the lack of recovery. It was how surgeries react to weather. Weird stuff. So I had a little bit of that when I was coming back home, but that worked its way out. And then I've been healthy since. I was gunning for a fight for these July dates. It didn't manifest on my behalf, so we'll be putting something together later on this year. I was trying to play catch up. I was trying to get 3 times in the ring, but as long as we can do 2 this year, 2 next year, and keep running 2, we should be able to put on some good shows in the near future.
Yeah. Have you always been like that throughout your career, where you kind of you said you kind of play with your food and whatnot? Like, were you like that when you fought Danny Garcia and Sean Porter, and like, has it always been like that?
I was too nice to Sean. We go way back. Me and Sean go way. We're the ones that I don't got nobody else that goes way back like Sean. We were sparring each other in Colorado Springs when we were amateurs. You know, we were getting ready for a tournament, and his coach wanted sparring, and my coach wanted sparring. I was 152, he was 165, so we knew we weren't fighting each other, so we got the work in together. Because of the high altitude too, I believe, in Colorado Springs. So we put in a little bit of rounds together back when we were amateurs. I had him in a training camp when we were both professionals. When he was on Showtime, and I think I was on HBO or something like that. So we were in camp together because at the time we also knew that we will fight each other because now Sean's a welterweight, but we're not fighting each other right now. And for that, we were in camp together. That was actually my first HBO fight. And so that I've been in the ring with him as an amateur. I've been in the ring with him as a pro. And then we signed the contract and we knew what we were getting into. And I think there's just a part of me that kept it a little bit like a sparring match, in a weird way. And then when it came to Danny, you know, I think my biggest mistake when I look back at why did Keith Thurman not knock out Sean Porter and Danny Garcia? Because I think the opportunities were there. I think when I really look back at it, it's one simple mistake. I didn't train for the knockout. It's something that my coach used to say. The way you train is the way that you fight, you know? And I'm just finally at that point in my career where, yeah, I knocked down Robert the Ghost Guerrero, I didn't knock him out, and I thought to myself, when I see all these lack of knockouts that I was getting, I was preparing myself to be a 12-round championship boxer. I was running for Danny Garcia, I was running 35 miles a day, 35 miles a week, right? A week
Mm-hmm.
for 8 weeks leading up to that fight, bro. 35 miles a week for 8 weeks, consistent, putting in the road work. So I know my legs are with me, right? I was ready for 12-round championship boxing. And as I was conditioning myself and getting my body ready for that new style, I negated that killer instinct of this is nice. We're ready for the 12 rounds. But what we really want to do is prioritize that knockout. So I stopped prioritizing that knockout. So I didn't have that knockout prioritized against Sean, against Danny, against Robert the Ghost Guerrero, against Pacquiao. It just wasn't there no more. And that's the one thing that I'm trying to bring back at the end of my career. Plus, who knows, maybe the old man, maybe I don't need to move as much as I used to move anyways. We'll figure it out. I'm fine tuning the skills that I've already possessed, but to maximize and limit the damage that I take. So now I'm going to be ready for the long fight. I'm going to be ready, but from this point on, I'm back in action, prioritizing that Keith one time Thurman KOs for life.
Mm-hmm. It's funny you mentioned that HBO. I think that was the first time I met you was when you had that HBO debut. I think it was in Cincinnati. And I believe at the time you might have had some dental work done, maybe a wisdom tooth
Yeah,
pulled or
yeah,
something like
wisdoms.
that.
Yeah, okay, yeah,
Right, right. Like, I
yeah,
mean, it was
yeah,
like right before the fight, you had your
yeah.
wisdoms taken out. So just looking back at your career, do you feel like there was a time where you were totally 100% healthy, or has there always been? Because I know fighters, I know you guys always have dings when you go into fights, but it's just
Oh
funny
man,
that I think
ask
back to
Paulie
that.
Malignaggi. Ask Paulie Malignaggi what Keith Thurman hand looked like before he fought Diego Chavez. Right,
Oh
I
wow.
had stitches in my hand. Right,
Mm-hmm.
and I just took the stitches out 2 days before the fight. And in the
Bro, what,
fight,
how are
I
you
was
into these fights? Like, I mean, for wisdom teeth pulled, stitches taken out. Like, why wouldn't you just pull out of the fight?
man. God wants people to have a fair fight. That's what it is, man. That's what I tell people, man. I had bone spurs. I had bone spurs in my elbow when I fought Danny Garcia. That's another reason. That's another reason why I really talk my ish, bro. That's
Mm-hmm.
another reason. These boys can't handle half of me.
Mm-hmm.
I should have fought Tim Zoo injured. These boys can't handle half of me
Wow. Wow.
because with one hand I still got 2 feet.
Mm.
And the one thing that's underestimated about being in the ring with Keith Thurman is what it's like to be in the ring with Keith Thurman.
Mm.
Just to dance with me, forget the punching. Just move with me, lean with me, rock with me, lean with me, rock with me.
Yes,
All
sir.
right?
Mm-hmm.
It's highly underestimated, you know? I've had fighters tell me like, look, man, he looks wide open. But the moment I go to throw, he's not there. You know, I love boxing, man. I love boxing. I love what it brings to the table. Um, I mean, it's an inner joy, and there's just nothing like it, man. You know, I love life. I love being a father. I love my wife. You know, but I love boxing.